Good afternoon. I'm Lawrence Wintermeyer, the CEO of Innovate Finance, and welcome to our global FinTech community call-out. Today, we've got Ernst & Young here to talk about the Global FinTech Hub Benchmarking Report that was commissioned by the Treasury here in the UK. So we'd like to welcome everyone from around the world, and specifically our FinTech hubs on the call. Just to point out a few trends from the Innovate Finance community. Last year, we saw global VC funding at $12.5 billion, which was in line with 2014. But one of the big trends that we saw globally was the rise in institutional investment and corporate venture investment in CVCs. And we noted that this is pretty important. A couple of years ago, entrepreneurs and startups in the community were very much focused on getting connected to venture capital, either here in the UK or in the US. This year, a lot of the entrepreneurs were discussing how to best work with institutions to either collaborate on proof of concepts, to get engaged in either incubation or acceleration programs, and broadly a better understanding of how to collaborate, sell to, and work with institutions. So to that end, outside of the corporate venture capital funds that we've seen, certainly in Europe, all with funds of anywhere between 1 to 200 million US and euros. In the US, we've noted particular take side of City Ventures and CME. Europe, Innoventures from Santander, and AXA and Aviva seem to be leading the way. So we focused on that in addition to the institutional investment in the FinTech space. And the estimates we've been getting anecdotally for the market is that institutions are spending between $1 billion plus over 3 to 5 year programs on FinTech. The next big thing I'd like to point out, particularly as a trend here in the UK, is the continuing focus on regulatory leadership, predominantly from the FCA and Project Innovate, who in December launched a consultation on regulatory sandboxes and have invited the community to really participate in that consultation in focusing how we can accelerate the right touch regulation for FinTechs. So a lot of significant trends going on in the global FinTech community, a number of significant trends certainly going on in the UK FinTech community related to not just our capital growth and institutional exposures, but the regulator really taking the leadership on this front. This is why we're delighted today to be hosting this call with Ernst & Young and guests from HM Treasury. For those of you unfamiliar with us, Innovate Finance is an independent, non-for-profit members association that seeks to represent global FinTechs here in the UK. We have over 200 members from startups to large institutions, and we're delighted to have all of you on the call. I think the question line's open, so make sure that your questions come in as we get through the call. We're going to kick off first with Catherine Batchelor, who is the head of FinTech strategy from HM Treasury here in the UK. And Catherine, I was hoping you could spend 5 minutes and really give us a bit of background as to why this report was commissioned.
Yeah, happy to. So, I think the starting place would be the UK government are very supportive of FinTech, and there are a couple of reasons for that. The first one is we are very interested in promoting greater competition in UK financial services, and we really see FinTech companies as driving greater competition among the traditional financial services firms, and at the same time delivering much better outcomes for consumers. Quite often the FinTech propositions and services that we developed are much more customer focused, and we see that as a very good thing. The second thing is obviously that FinTech is, a growing industry in itself, and, being the Treasury, we're always very interested in, supporting economic growth, supporting job creation. So there are two main reasons why this government is very supportive of FinTech. Many of you may have seen that our Chancellor, I think it was back in 2014, set out his ambition that he wanted the UK to be the global capital for FinTech. And it was against that backdrop that we commissioned this report. And the reasoning behind that was, I think we to date had done a number of kind of initiatives to support FinTech in the UK. So we've done things like create the payment systems regulator to support greater access to the UK payment systems. We've done the measures on mandatory referrals. So this is where FinTechs who are, could be any kind of companies who are rejected for finance from traditional financial services firms can have their details passed on to alternative lenders. So we've done a number of ad hoc measures like that, but with the Chancellor's ambition in the back of our minds, we wanted to understand, how near are we to meeting his aim of being this global capital for FinTech? And, if we are to meet this name, we really need to set a strategy. We really need to identify, what should our key priorities be going forward. So the benchmarking exercise was announced at the summer budget last year, and we began a procurement process to appoint an independent body to take forward this work. And I think it was announced in early November last year that we'd appointed EY and that EY would take forward this work. And we asked EY to do a number of things. The first one was, could you consider the UK environment for FinTech against a number of other leading global hubs around the world? And when we said the UK environment, we purposefully wanted a very broad interpretation of that. We wanted to look at things like talent, capital, demand, the government and regulatory environment, all of those things which EY did in fact do. We also asked EY to identify, what are the UK's key strengths when it comes to FinTech? What are the areas that we really need to improve? And if we were looking to improve, we were interested in best practice from, other leading FinTech hubs that we might be able to emulate or adopt here in the UK. So we really wanted EY to bring that out. And I think you'll probably agree that they met that criteria, and you'll see the report was published last week. And the report put forward a number of recommendations of things that government should be doing. It concluded that the UK is in fact, has a very strong environment for FinTech. But I think it also rightly pointed to the competition we will face going forward to maintain that position, particularly from the United States, but also from places like China. And in that regard, it put forward a number of recommendations of things that we should be looking to do. And I guess I just put forward that on this call we'd be very interested in any views people have on those recommendations, and very interested in what people thought of the report.